When you got to Florida, right? Distractions. We got to talk about distractions, right? Because you go from high school to Florida where everything is bigger, football games, there's a whole bunch of parties happening, and you have to find time to learn the schedule of a student athlete. And man, that's a full-time gig, right? But tell me a little bit about that process for you, Christian, especially your first year adjusting to it. You got to go train, you got to go to class, you got to go to study hall maybe, and all of those things. Because for me, in my situation, I went from a junior college to Alabama, and my GPA fell from 3.2 to 1.9. I had to take summer school, right? Because I just couldn't understand. Wait, you have SECs on Thursday, and you got to leave on Sunday. I was like, what type of mess is this?
Right.
So walk me through that first year of just trying to balance the whole new schedule.
Yeah, so this was definitely a transition, and the things I really want to push mentorship, right? This is so important for middle school, for high school athletes. It's more than just going, you're leaving the house, you're leaving the nest. No. Like, there are some reality checks that hit you and will ultimately make or break you. Right. And so I would tell you, if I was not grounded, if I didn't have the upbringing I had, if I did not have the mentors I had coming in, my first day when I moved into my dorm, I had 3 other roommates and they were already talking to me about going to a party that night. Right. So I'm just being very real. Like, this is going to be knocking at your door. Like, my parents were helping me move in and they were like, nah, we got it. Hey, do you guys want to go? There's a big party, a big frat party tonight. And I thought, this is university? Like, this is crazy, right? I think we were talking about orientation, getting your schedules. They were already trying to party. And then on top of this, right, like, it is balancing sport and school. So you're now going to work with an academic advisor, but your classes are going to be at 8 a.m. Then you're going to have study hall. So you're going to have to put in all these hours, plus be able to train full time. And it's exhausting at the beginning, So I remember the first week I was just flat out dead because I had this super early class. So I think I was in class from maybe 7 or 8 until 3. And then we had practice at 3:30. Then we were at practice from 3:30 to maybe 6 o'clock. Then we had like dining hall at 6:37. Then I had study hall from 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock. And then I had my roommates that wanted to have a nightlife, right? So trying to juggle this in the first week, because I didn't want to be the lame roommate, right? So they were like, hey, we're going. I'm like, yeah, I could do maybe 1 or 2 hours. I was up to 1:30 to just do it again. This is not sustainable, right? So I quickly was just like, I cannot do this, guys. Good luck. But I say all this to say, like, if you have a mentor, if you have somebody that can just plant the seed, hey, this is what you're going to be introduced to. It's not. I think college is a time of life where you find yourself, and you basically see how far you can be stretched, and you find out what you can take on. But at the same time, if you have this in mind, you can say, look, I can try a little bit, but I know the most important thing is my academics. Then I need to be actually a really good teammate. I need to make sure that I'm taking care of my job on the track to become a better athlete, but also, as you know, it's the team spirit, the team camaraderie is very important. If you're not holding your own, you're going to have that difficult conversation with the coach. Like, you're here on scholarship. You're not taking care of your thing. We're going to find somebody else that's going to, right? And I've had that reality check, believe it or not. So many people look at the outside and say, man, you won nationals. I've had the coach be like, dude, I understand you were talented, but talent is not going to get you all the way. Like, something's got to give. And that's when I was like, okay, this nightlife, like, I got to stop, right? Because if I'm going to be the athlete I want to be, if I'm going to basically live up to the athlete that he's recruited me for, something's got to give. And that's when the priorities came into place.
It's funny, man. You can do a lot of things, but you can't do everything at certain positions, right? So it's very important to understand that, man, whatever you do, there's something else that comes behind it. You want to be great, or you want to party. You can't really do both. They both have an expiration date before one trumps the other, man. But you just spoke about being a great teammate, and a lot of your competition to become an NCAA champion was right there in your home camp. with Will Clay, man. Walk me through a little bit about that relationship, training together, and then going to competition. And I mean, you guys talk a little mess to each other. I know it happens a little bit, Chris. I know it happens a little bit, man. What's that
training
dynamic?
training was more brutal than I think I've ever experienced in my life, right? So we had trash talk like I've never experienced. I mean, we were really getting after it day in and day out. We were so competitive. And we were competing in the classroom. We were competing in the weight room. We were competing with the nutrition, like, how's your weight? Oh, this is my weight, right? We were competing ab challenges. I mean, we were so competitive. And then Omar Craddock came, a year after also. So, I mean, in the jumps department, we were unstoppable. We had the top 3 jumpers in the world, not even, in college, but everything we did. And it got to the point where it was too competitive, right? Like we were having full blown SEC championships on a Tuesday
at the crib.
Right? And that just doesn't make sense. And again, when I talk about sustainability, you cannot keep this, right? So the coaches would actually separate us because if we did drills, it was who was the best at the drills, who was the fastest at the drills. Water break, okay, who can go and get the water, come back. And so this was healthy and unhealthy at the same time. But then, I mean, this dynamic it just got into the position when we built this confidence and we also built this connection with each other that every competition we went to, we knew when it was Will and I, that's it. Like we knew it was this is just another day in practice. And we would say that. Many coaches would say, hey, this is the championship or this is a dual invite. And they would hype. Our coach would say, guys, this is another day. This is another day of practice because the same thing you guys did on Tuesday would win this competition today. The same thing you did on Friday would win this competition. So you guys have fun. And so that was our raw. It was like, you don't need to do anything out of body, anything special. Do what you did on Tuesday. And we carried that all the way to world championships, to the Olympic Games. Like, this is what Will and I would do. So of course we would trash talk to push each other. We would trash talk to get that fire going. But ultimately, when we were at the championship, we weren't thinking about the competitors. We were just like, hey, we do this day in, day out. We don't need to learn how to jump. We don't need to try something special. We're jumping almost 18 meters in training. We're jumping 58, 59 feet week in, week. Hey, get on the board. And like, I'm gonna be ready to respond. And when I jump, you better be ready to respond. And that was kind of the dialogue that we would have, but we just had this confidence like no other.
What was your favorite college meet, Christian? Right? Because I know there was, I forgot what year it was, but Will jumped and he was on your last jump and you got him on the last jump, right? And this honestly happens a lot of times in your career when you think about it, right? On this last jump, you muster everything up and you do what you have to do to get done. Christian, how do you handle pressure, man? What goes through your head? Because the saying, pressure makes diamonds and pressure bust pipes. But I've always been a firm believer, man, that in a pressure situation, you don't do anything different. You just trust your training, right? How do you handle pressure? Like on that last jump, what's going through your head? How do you handle it?
But this is exactly how I train, right? So I told you about this dynamic that we were having in training. Best believe that on a Tuesday, we were already envisioning the Olympic Games, right? So we weren't jumping at SECs. We weren't jumping at the Florida dual invitational. We were saying this Olympic final and the coach, because we had several coaches in this time, but the coach would just say, hey, here's Will's marker. Here's Christian's marker. We got 6 jumps today. No more, no less. If you don't get it right, that's on you. You have to wait till Friday. And we would that's what I'm trying to say is we practice how you compete. It's like that Michael Jordan mentality, right? Like you train hard because you're preparing your body for when it's game time, when it's crunch time. You want the coach to say, I'm giving you the ball, right? And this is the mentality that we had day in and day out. Everything we were doing, it was like 6th round. Who's gonna have bragging rights until Friday, and then on Friday we jumped again, and who's gonna have bragging rights until next Tuesday, and know that Wednesday, Thursday, we were just trash talking like you remember what I did to you on Tuesday, right? So these bragging rights, and my wife can tell you I'm very petty. I'm very like I love trash talk. So every time we cross paths, I'm gonna make you remember I was the last one that won, right? And that just started up. That got that flame going. And that's why it took some time where coaches were like, we need to separate you two, because there was not a lift. There was nothing that we didn't do day in and day out that was not thinking and pushing us to those pressure situations. I was dealing with pressure every day. So to be in these high pressure scenarios was nothing, because I had this every single day. And that just carried over into my career. So from world championship, Olympic games, when some people were saying, I hope to be in the final, I hope I can have a personal best, I would say, Will, we've done this 2 weeks ago. It's another day. It's another day in Gainesville. It's another day, right? So, and when you put yourself there, it was like, okay, it's me and you. Let's go. And time after time, we were 1 and 2, 1 and 3, right? I think that it's just because that's the dynamics. That's the feeling that we had.
2012, you became Olympic champ. 2016, you did it again. What was the difference between the two, right? Because here you were, you saw the games in 96, where you were saying, man, I want to do that one day. And then it comes to happen. Sometimes when we reach a certain position, right, and we get there, and the feeling may not be like what we thought it was, right? You may be excited, but then you may go saying, I wonder what else that I could do. What was the difference between those two games for you? When you won in 2012, was it that feeling you thought when you were a kid? Or was it just that more hunger?
Yeah, if I'm going to be very open and honest with you, in 2012, I was pleased, but also dissatisfied. I was actually disappointed, because this is something I chased for 20 years, and I made it. I was world and Olympic champion, and I thought, that's it.
Yeah,
that's what I dreamed. That's what I chased. That's all the times I was sick, all the snow I was training through. That's it. Like, I hear the national anthem, I'm on top, I bite the medal, I take my pictures. Okay, thank you. Like, and okay, I went home and I shared them, but I tell you, because this was very self-centered. This was very Christian focused me, right? It was like, I'm working towards this. I can't wait to prove that I'm the best in the world. Me. Got to this high, and it's very lonely. Like that saying, it's very lonely at the top. It's true.
Yeah.
You know, you have all these people like, you the man, congratulations. And I did it, right? I did the after parties. I did it all. Came back and I thought, that's it. And that actually took me to a depression, because I was expecting this euphoria. I was expecting, and it put me to a really, really dark depression. You know, I thought, now what? 2 years as a professional athlete, where's there to go? Right? Like, I did everything I sought after. Okay, maybe I need to win this competition. Or maybe I need to have this meeting record, but these whys weren't strong enough, right? Like, ultimately, I was chasing, I need to be an Olympic champ. That's far off. If I make Olympic final, every press conference I did, they said, it's your first Olympics. You know, come have an experience. You're going to learn a lot. So your second one, you're going to be prepared. I won. So then I was like, now what?
Yeah.
Right. I had the experience, but where'd you go from here? And that took me to a dark, dark place. Again, this was why 2014 was such a transitional year. This is why, you know, I had the heart change. I had everything, because it no longer was about me. Then the problem was 2016, I went in as the reigning champ. So the bar is very high. I had all this pressure, but then I took my mentorship to heart, right? So it was no longer I'm competing for myself. It was, well, now I've got to win for my kids, right? Like, these kids are counting on me. They're saying they believe in me. They know I can do it. I've got to do it. And this almost consumed me. You know, I ended up winning, but then I felt the weight of the world, right? And so then I was crying on the podium and was actually in shock, but I just thought I didn't want to let people down. And now it got me to the point where, you know, when I was in the hospital bed, I want my career to be about me. But now it's so faith-centered that I'm like, but I know God loves me regardless of my performance, right? I know my identity is not on how far I jump, how fast I run, but I just want to spread hope. I want to inspire, but I had to take that pressure off. And ultimately, pressure is what you put on, right? Yeah. And I think that's really important for people to know.
Christian, what would you say to someone, man, let me rephrase the question. With the pandemic we're all still dealing with it, with the impact it made in 2020. and the things that it's done to people, both physically and mentally, and, you know, people trying to rebuild in so many different ways. We're all still recovering from it, man. What would you say to someone listening, Christian, who is really feeling the heaviness on their shoulders, in their mind, in their hearts, man? What are some things that you could say or would say from your experience that would help uplift them and make the day or the week a little easier for them?
The best gift, tool, anything, the best thing I could give you at this time is get into the word. This is obviously very believer based, but it talks about what you're building on, what you're standing on. And I'm going to be very honest. I was shaken and rocked during the pandemic, right? Like the Olympics were postponed and eventually lost for me. At this time, my fiance and I, she was in Europe. She was stuck in Europe. I was stuck in the US. So I was, away from my best friend. My family is in Atlanta. So, being distant. So everyone can relate to this isolation feeling. And we were also being told to socially distance, right? So my heart was torn. I wasn't able to have the same interaction with people. But then it was the best thing I got out of this time was starting a guy's Bible study group. And it was just like, look, we're all struggling and we can be vulnerable at this. We can be disappointed this time. There was a lot of the Black Lives Matter movement, a lot of killings and stuff. So the pandemic was really hitting people in a lot of different ways. But then it was just like, regardless of what's happening in the world, like what can we stand on? What is consistent through time, through generation? And it was just getting into the word and hearing like what we can stand on, what we build on, where our identity lies, who we really are. It's not about what people are saying who we are. It's knowing who we really are, what we've been created to do, finding your purpose, all these things. And so I would just say, like, for those non-believers, I would challenge you to seek out the truth. Take some time and give the Bible a chance, give God a chance, right? And I think you have nothing to lose and everything to gain. And for those believers that are struggling, I understand where you're going through. The encouragement I can give you is what helped me was figuring out who God really is and the heart He has for me.
Man, that's beautifully said. I can't echo that enough. And even if you're not a believer just yet, the scripture teaches principles, right? And one of the scriptures that has always helped me in my life is Galatians 6, verse 9. Do not be weary for doing good, for at the proper time you reap a harvest if you don't give up. And I think not giving up in the midst of a dark moment is the thing that's going to help us get through it. Christian, last 5 questions, man. Fun 5 questions. Shouldn't be too taxing. Should be pretty easy, man. Question number 1. If you were trapped on a deserted island for a week, what are 3 things you would take with you?
What is it? Desalinate? What's the thing that separates water, salt water? So the thing that helped me make fresh water.
Canteen, is it? A canteen, right? No, it's not a canteen.
Sanitizer. Well, anything, something to make fresh water. That's first and foremost. Can I bring my wife?
Yeah, you can bring the wife. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, bring my wife. And maybe a hammock.
We don't want to get sand in the body. You know what I'm saying? We got to have more elevation.
Well, the thing is, all the killer things are crawling, right? So I think if I can get elevated somehow, that's how I'll survive. It works with Naked and Afraid.
Yeah. I like what you're thinking about, man. Question 2. I know you're big on shows, man. And, in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, we had some bang on spot shows, man. What are your top 5 favorite shows of all time? Now, Christian, people are listening, right? So they're going to be angry if you missing one, right?
Yeah. Jamie Foxx show, Bernie Mac. So those are 2. I love comedies, just so you know. 24. I don't know if you remember this one.
The crime show, right?
Yeah. So it's like with Jack Bauer and stuff like this. Prison Break.
Ooh.
I think they kept going, but I didn't watch it so long. But yeah, original Prison Break. And then How I Met Your Mother.
Hey, man, that's a list right there, man. Number 3, I know you're big on coffee, right? If you could have 5 guests at your coffee table for 2 hours of uninterrupted conversations, just you, your guests, and coffees, man, who would be at the table of Christian Taylor?
Obama, for sure. Maybe both. Michelle, yeah, and Barack.
We'll just combine them.
Okay, yeah, I like that. Thank you. George Clooney, Denzel Washington, Jesse Owens, and to be honest, Martin Luther King.
Hey, that'd be an interesting conversation.
I think it would be a mix of, just so many, but yeah, that would be good.
Question 4, man. I think one of the hardest things for every person, doesn't matter what your profession is trying to find balance, right? And for you, you got to train. Now you're recovering back from the injury. There's a lot of effort that goes into that. You're married now, so you also got to spend time with your spouse, and you got to spend time in the Word and spend time for you, man. How do you handle balance, and how do you navigate through that? And what is one thing that you got to do for you every day?
So the thing I could say to cover everything, priority. It's all about priority. Whatever you prioritize, you're going to find time for. Or to make it very easy, whatever you love, you're going to fight. So you will make time for the things that you love or you prioritize. So, I always start every day with the Word, before I even get out of bed, right? Like that's how I start my day. And then obviously, having coffee with my wife and things like this, but it's like just making sure you set aside time for these things. This is how you find that balance. What was the second part?
How do you find the balance of it? And the one thing, you actually answered all of it already, man.
Okay, cool.
Now that I think about it, last one, man. 6 titles, right? NCAA titles, All-American, all of that. But also all of the great things that you're doing off the track with mentorship and, being a person who is following Christ and which way that he may be leading them, man. If there was one word to describe you, Christian, what would that one word be? And give me a little context behind why.
I would say searching. I believe I'm still or progressing. But yeah, it would be a word that is for sure not finals, but sure seeking out again purpose and I just want to make sure that at the end of the day when we're at Judgment Day that I'm hearing well done, good and faithful servant, right? And so I just don't want to whether the books I've read and things, I just want to make sure that I'm doing what I'm called to do, and sometimes you have to be very careful with this because you try to take on a lot of things or take on too many things that you believe can be your purpose and it's not close to what your calling is. But the thing is, I'm a doer, and I don't want to ever think that I miss an opportunity, right? And so you don't make the shots you don't take. I'm trying to shoot in every basket possible and see what lands. But I would just say maybe progressive or seeking. It's something, a work in progress.
Man, I know you have a lot of things in the works, a lot of things happening, man. You're one of the most personable people that I've met in the sport today, man. How do people keep in contact with you, man? And you message Christian, he gonna respond at some point, man. So how can people keep in touch with you, man? And what are some of the things that you are working on right now? How can they support?
Yeah, thanks, Akeem. So first and foremost, please hit me up on social media. I am managing my social media, so this does come sometimes with delays if I'm traveling, if I'm busy. If I had a manager, I'm sure you get a quick reply. But the thing is, when you do get a reply, it is me. Please follow and message me. Feel free to message me at Tailored to Jump. And outside of that, again, shout out to Classroom Champions. Obviously, Steve Mesler, he's doing great things with this nonprofit. We're really touching the lives of hundreds of thousands, across the Americas, and continue trying to find ways to grow. But we know our future lies with them. So, it's really important that we can just continue that mentorship, continue to plant seeds that can help them have better life experiences. So you can find me Classroom Champions. You can find me on the track or in the sand somewhere, but at Tailored to Jump. Don't be afraid to shoot me a DM because I'll respond, when I can.
Man, thank you so much for your time, man. Safe travels out, and I appreciate your time again, Christian.
Thanks so much, Akeem. Stay safe.
Later, man.
Thanks.